Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video. My next guest needs no introduction. It's the legendary Dan Waters. If you're a comic book fan, I'm sure you've heard this name. Recently, he's been crushing it. As of time of recording, just gone, his new comic, Arkham City, The Order of the World, just came out, and issue one was fantastic. We'll be getting into all that and more. But you may also know him from his work on various other titles, such as Homesick Pilots, and of course, something I got here, Coffin Bound. I picked this up from Big Bang Comics the other day. Fantastic book. And he's also gotten to work on some other series, such as Assassin's Creed, Wolfenstein, Limbo, and some more of his upcoming books soon will be Batman Urban Legends issue 8 and Cowboy Bebop. But Dan has very kindly agreed to come on for an interview. All it took was a lot of blackmail, but he's very kindly agreed to come on and let me annoy him. But Dan, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
I look forward to chatting all these different comics. And just from, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So the first thing I want to get into is Arkham City. It's a new comic. For anyone watching who does, because this is kind of like a new comic that's set deep in the hills of, I guess, Gotham and Arkham, and issue 1 was fantastic. But what can you tell anyone watching about Arkham City if they don't know what the book's about?
So Arkham City is set after A-Day, which is when the Joker essentially assassinated everyone in Arkham Asylum. And it's the story of the few patients who managed to escape the asylum and the one psychologist who wasn't at work that night, and she's the last surviving psychologist from Arkham Asylum, trying to track down her patients and make sure that they are okay, make sure they're not hurting other people. So we've got a cast of characters that maybe haven't been seen as much, haven't been sort of given the spotlight as much. Ten-Eyed Man is in there quite prominently. We've got Dr. Double X, we've got Professor Pig, Mad Hatter, these really sort of interesting, strange characters who are now all loose in Gotham and trying to get by.
Yeah, definitely. And so like the people in this book is just fantastic. Like for everyone watching who doesn't know, we have some characters like Ten-Eyed Man, who is a character. If you've never heard that name, we won't blame you, because when you think of Batman or Gotham lore, no one first says, yes, Ten-Eyed Man. Or another character is Ratcatcher. I believe Mad Hatter makes an appearance, and all these kind of obscure villains, Professor Pig or Pig, no one will tell me how to pronounce that. But like there's all these separate, like really unique and really obscure Batman villains. And so, so how did this book come about? Because it's really interesting. Did DC come to you and say, would you like to work on this series, or did you pitch this to them, or how did that come about?
It was a weird one. It was a little bit in between. It was sort of a weird process for a weird book, in that there was another book that my editor and I were talking about, which went a different direction. But for that, I kept sort of coming up with these takes on characters, and Ten-Eyed Man was one of those. It was this reinvention of the Ten-Eyed Man who no one had sort of used or seen in decades. And though the book went a different way, the characters, they were interested in the characters, and the editors sort of came to me and said, hey, you've got all these sort of characters you sort of reinvented, you came up with, and we've been trying to work out what happened to the inmates who escaped Arkham Asylum when it was destroyed. So maybe let's, look a little bit more at that and see if there's a story there. And luckily there was a story there.
Yeah, definitely. And so I promised myself I wouldn't bring this up to later in the interview, but any Condiment King, Condiment King, or do I have to explain what Condiment King is? Oh my, if anyone watches my channel, I bring up Condiment King way too much. It's a bit of an addiction.
See, Condiment King feels like a relatively easy one in nothing, because at least Condiment King was like made kind of recently, and he's like, it's like, okay, like we know we're making something like fun and goofy and silly. So like, he doesn't need to be reinvented. We should leave him to be the.
And plus, you couldn't get him because of all like the single issue series he has, and like just how busy he is with his multi-film deal.
He's too tied up. Yeah, he's too tied up in the film stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Goddamn, Alex Packnadal was probably something. See you, Alex. Exactly. No, I'm only messing. Let's just blame everything on him. It's so much easier to blame.
I normally do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
At work and in life.
Yeah, just like for any situation, no matter what it is, you can just tie Alex into it somehow. But yeah, exactly. So no Condiment King. I assume that was, of course, you must have fought very hard for that. So I can see single tear drops from your eye.
You know what? There was a few that I did. I did one where I was told, okay, you can probably use them, but do you really want them? Do you really need them? Because you're gonna make our lives really hard. because there's different sort of like rights which I didn't know
Oh
for the ones who originated in the Adam West show.
Oh, really? Some original character from there. So I assume you said, hang on a minute, I'm Alex Packnadal. I'll get what I want to. Flip the cigarette away. Say, I want it now, okay? Give it to me now, editors. So yeah, any of those characters, did you get to use them, or
No, I they weren't important enough to the story to make my editors sort of go and have to do all that work. There's so many characters that I would have loved to have used, even just from the history. Like, there's so much history to Gotham City and Batman and all of this stuff. There was, I could have reinvented another dozen characters easily.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, working with these obscure characters like, Pig, Ten-Eyed Man, Ratcatcher, and even Mad Hatter, I believe Hush makes a little appearance, but was there like did you, take a while choosing the characters, or did you know from the very start that, okay, I kind of know what type of characters I want to use? Did you know fairly early on what type of characters you wanted to use?
Well, yeah, like I say, like Ten-Eyed Man was kind of in there from the jump. I've wanted to do that. I've had that idea for Ten-Eyed Man for a little while. Beyond that, yeah, it did take a little bit of digging and sort of figuring out. There was a few that didn't quite make the cut. I had to take on Polka Dot Man, which I was
we didn't get Polka Dot Man.
We didn't get Polka Dot Man, but now he has been in the movies because he's just been in Suicide Squad. So now everyone knows who Polka Dot Man is.
I would have been afraid to read your one though, because it would have been like, he hasn't been fed for 14 years and he's so angry, because your work is terrifying. That's another thing I want to touch on, is like this book, and you do a brilliant job of like making these characters, like, occasionally when I think of Batman, I do think of all these fun villains like, Riddler and just these kind of upbeat characters who are occasionally a bit campy. And then you come on the book and Ratcatcher is like the most terrifying person. I'm checking under my bed every night before I go to bed in case he's just chilling out there eating my cats and stuff. And so you like taking these new takes on these characters, kind of, giving them more of a horrific background maybe, or maybe giving them a new voice.
Yeah, I think voice is more the thing. It's not always about making them, trying to turn everything into sort of scary. I don't have any particular affinity for trying to be sort of like edgy or anything like that. It's just that this book in particular was a horror book. Like, that's kind of what we're doing with it. So most of the characters sort of went some way in that direction on this one. But yeah, like finding an angle or a voice for a character that hasn't necessarily been sort of brought to the forefront. That's where I find like a real joy in writing, particularly in writing into worlds like the DC universe that have been around for generations at this point. That's always the goal, and that's what I find the most rewarding. So, whether it's making Ratcatcher into a cannibal, sort of hiding under people's beds, whether it's making Ten-Eyed Man into this contortionist thing, or whether it's just like a slightly different perspective to look at like Superman, or anything like that.
And Condiment King, of course, a heartless mercenary, which is from your next issue. He's just,
exactly,
he's killing people with ketchup, drowning them, and oh my god, it's like
next leader of the Suicide Squad, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm so surprised you got away with that. Like, Condiment King's just icing people left and right. There had to have been some pushback there. You're like, no, I'm Alex Packnadal. This has to happen. It's important for the story. You're sitting there.
I don't have Alex's attitude, so I don't get away with it in the same way.
No, we're giving Alex a hard time. He's brilliant. But I assume you were just sitting there in your trench coat, your detective, taking a cigarette, looking at your board with yarn, like taped to different Condiment King pictures, thinking it has to connect somehow. It has to connect.
It all comes back to Condiment King.
That's basically my motto for life. The real Condiment King was the friends we made on the way. And we can finish our interview here because we're never going to touch anything as good as that single moment where we brought up Condiment. No one messing around. So Arkham City, Order of the World. So was it fun for you to kind of like dive into this pocket of Gotham and Arkham? Because I just love how you're exploring these characters. And like the first issue was fantastic, and it's like, I don't know how, it's so good, and it's like so creepy as well. And so it's like really atmospheric. So is it fun for you to kind of like dive deep into this little pocket of Batman or Gotham lore?
Yeah, I think there's a joy in taking Batman out of it.
Yeah.
I really like writing Batman. I did a story with the unfortunately late and very great John Paul Leon. which is one of my favorite things I've done just in life, probably. And that was very much a Batman story. But for something like this, taking him out of the equation entirely and looking at this city as this paranoid, terrifying place. I mean, why does anyone choose to live there with everything that happens? And
cheap rent.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, obviously, like one of the answers is cheap rent. I mean, it's East Coast, like Metropolis. It's still not going to be. It's still not going to be.
You might see
like
Condiment King every once in a while, and it's worth it. Just for
exactly.
that.
Well, other than Condiment King spotting, other than the rent, and other than the fact that otherwise we wouldn't have any stories to tell. Yeah, the idea that this must be this really quite desperate and paranoid place where sort of any other day some horrible thing happens, and yet people sort of just endure, which historically also people have done in those kind of situations. So treating Gotham as that kind of place, and looking at the corners where Batman isn't showing up and he isn't lunging from the shadows to save people, because he can only be at one place one time, even Batman. That was kind of that's kind of, I think, where the atmosphere came from, at least as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, definitely. And so I assume, living in Gotham must be just such a sweet paradise. It's like, someone just kill Joker already, okay? I mean, he's killing someone, just someone like do it,
I imagine if you polled the citizens of Gotham, you'd come with a pretty,
yeah.
It would be skewed pretty heavily that way.
And Condiment King would become mayor because he poisons all the hot dog vendors. What? Now I'm giving away my 800-page script, which I'm sending to DC.
Yeah, you gotta save that gold.
Yeah, their email must be broken or something. I've sent it. So I figure the best thing to do will be continue to bother them, go to their personal addresses, just get this Condiment King script out there.
Make sure you're emailing with your subject line in all caps, right?
Yeah, kind regards, Alex Packnadell. I write that at the end of all of them, just in case this doesn't paint me in the best way. No, but yeah, so exactly, getting to work in a comic like this, is there a certain freedom attested to working on 10-Eyed Man or, Ratcatcher? Because no one's gonna like, there's no 10-Eyed Man stands on Twitter saying, nah, how dare you? He would never say this.
There's more than you might have thought. Actually, but they're not saying that. Luckily, they seem very happy with where we've taken him.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot more sort of freedom and stuff. Like, even to be honest, even between, what can we do with 10-Eyed Man as opposed to what we can do with like, say, Mad Hatter, who is maybe like B-list, you'd say. Like, there's action figures, he's been on TV. And that's kind of also why we kind of used him, was particularly in the first issue. It's like, okay, here's someone you've seen, here's someone you've heard of, and now here's all the rest of them. And the definitely part of the big difference is that we were actually encouraged to reinvent and sort of play with these characters a bit, because they were characters who've been kind of in the cupboard for a while. And Danny and I had worked together on Coffin Bound. We sort of invented some sort of strange and colorful things. Oh, you got the Big Bang.
Oh yes, did I? I did
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, all I had to do was steal it when they weren't looking. Score! No, don't steal from your local comic book store, okay? Make sure especially support the Big Bang.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, John.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's watching. If you see a sniper, I'm down. He has a sniper on me at all times. So let me take a minute. Shout out Big Bang Comics, #1 comic book store. Now you can check out Dundrum, some other shops, Dublin City Comics, Subway Comics. Check them all out. Sorry for interrupting you there. But yeah, no. So Batman, so Batman does not appear in this. And so is this a decision you knew you wanted to take from the very start? No, I mean, the true Batman was the friends we made on the way. So technically he's in this when you really think about it. But did you know from the very start that you were like, no, I think it'd be funner. Maybe he doesn't even appear in it in cameo. You want to just base this on the villains? Yeah, was that always the mindset?
Yeah, and I'm quite happy to say that up front as well. Like, Batman is not showing up in this book. That's not what this is. It's not 5 issues of everything going terrible, and then he comes in at issue 6 and saves the day.
That's Condiment King's job.
Exactly. So yeah, it's definitely a story about not Batman more than it's a story about Batman. And that's also kind of why we didn't want to use anyone who had a sort of tight connection with the Bat Family. There's no Robin, there's no Nightwing, there's none of those characters are showing up. We have Azrael, who is
Yes, does Azrael appear in this?
yeah. So Azrael was I think that's okay to say he's on some of the covers. But as Azrael was the one we wanted to use because he is a little bit more shadowy, a little bit more, and most readers won't be as familiar with him either, and that's kind of what we wanted because it's the same way that our main cast, our Arkhamites, as we call them, feel about him. They don't know who he is. They don't know what he is, and he's this thing lunging out of the shadows with a flaming sword.
Brilliant. As opposed to some of the other guys, he's honestly not as weird when you really. I mean, as weird as he's going around with flaming sword, like there's some eyeball. There's an eyeball dude, and Ketchup Guy. Well, Ketchup Guy isn't in it, but he's in it in spirit when you really think about it. And at one point, I think in issue 4, there's a little splash of green reference to Lettuce. Therefore, vis-a-vis Conman King is canon in the Dan Waters DC universe. Is that right? Can you give an exclusive bleeding cool comment for this? Does this mean Conman King exists in your universe?
I mean, he definitely does, right?
Oh my god, it's confirmed. Okay, we can just finish this. That's all I really wanted to hear from you. I don't really care about anything else. No, but yeah, Azrael, and I believe you have a story up with him in Batman Urban Legends 8.
Yes, so running through Urban Legends 8 to 10.
So are you doing quite a little bit of work with Azrael now as a character?
I mean, yeah, I've been sort of working with him for a couple of months now.
Good friend
on these 2 stories, and yeah. Or he always takes the last coffee in the pot. But other
does seem like that type. I hate to say, I was waiting for you to bring it up, but I wouldn't trust Azrael. Yeah, but
he blames on the brainwashing. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to blame your cult for taking the coffee, but come on, it has to end somewhere. That's my excuse for everything. Yeah, I was in a cult.
The buck has to stop somewhere.
Yeah. Alex Packnadell culted all somewhere, and there's a good excuse. I assume that's just your mindset for everything. But yeah, no, getting to work with Azrael. Now, is that a bit of fun? Because obviously, you obviously have a deep love of this character. Cat coming into frame, exclusive here. This was the only reason I wanted to do this, just so your cat would come in. Damn, your partner in crime. I assume she writes half the books as well.
Yeah, this is Pancakes, my ghostwriter.
Pancakes, oh my god, that's the best name ever. I'm so glad that you called your cat Pancakes. Brilliant. And so I assume just goes with you everywhere, and of course the cat signs every copy of all your work. She just dips the paw in ink.
Yeah, whether I want her to or not.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, so obviously very exclusive appearance there from the cat. It was just a sign. We brought up Conman King and she appeared. He just has that effect on people. He's like he just attracts people towards him. But yeah, Azrael, how did this come about? Did you reach out to, or did DC reach out to you, say would you like to do quite a bit of work on Azrael, or?
Yeah, I mean it was sort of a bit serendipitous.
Yeah.
Always use the word serendipitous when the opportunity arises. It was kind of serendipitous in that I'd written. I was asked if I wanted to do this Azrael story for Urban Legends, and I was asked in kind of a way of like, oh, we don't know if you know this guy, and I was like, actually, I love Nightfall more than anything, and Azrael's fantastic, and I come from a sort of like Catholic background, and I was like, there's so much to sort of like talk about with this character, which I don't think has been like kind of tapped into yet. So I yes, please let me do that. So I wrote that story, and then sort of in the background, Arkham City was starting to become a thing, and once we were looking at Arkham City, we knew we wanted someone to sort of haunt our characters through the book, and it just became like I sort of already said the reasons. He's like this lesser known character. He's not as connected to Batman. He's way more of a sort of loose cannon. He's way more violent, and all of that stuff was sort of perfect. So he kind of ended up in this. It wasn't sort of a planned thing that we're going to do like a bunch of Azrael stuff. It was just we did an Azrael thing and then realized he sort of slotted perfectly into this one, which is also why they're quite different. The versions of Azrael you're going to see are quite different between the two books, because one is from his perspective and one is from everyone else's perspective, essentially.
Like, who's this weird guy with a flaming sword just sitting on rooftops? And he's like, I'm a protector.
He doesn't think it's weird.
No, he doesn't take it's just natural for him. And it's a bit uncomfortable when, he brings it to restaurants and stuff and he just like pops it into the ground and carries it around. Yeah, but so you just brought up there like having a Catholic background. And so I'm Irish. So of course, growing up in Ireland, can't really relate. No, I'm only messing. Yeah, big into the old Catholicism over here. Yeah, no. So do you play with religion at all there? Because I always kind of think that's interesting. When in a universe like DC, some people are very religious and it's like, yeah, but like there are like people who have the powers of Superman and their gods are kind of real in this world, but the fact that some people still have that faith really interesting to me seeing that. So do you play with religion at all, or is it like more subtly hinted, or
I mean, yeah, I mean, I do in quite a lot of my work, to be honest. It's something that's had a big impact and impression on me. Like, you see a little bit in Coffin Bound, and I read Lucifer for 2 years, which is, sort of dealing with religion in the DC universe. That's about as sort of high as you could go. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing to grapple with, the idea of belief in a world in which the impossible has sort of been proven possible.
yeah.
And that was definitely something I was interested in. But the other flip side is you don't want to start just like confirming people's belief, because belief and knowing are very different things, right? So if you of took someone like Azrael and you just go like, oh yeah, look, here's Lucifer and here's the presence, and you were right all along. Suddenly he's got far less to sort of do. And it changes the whole dynamic, and I don't think that would make a better story.
Yeah, definitely. You just put it perfectly there. But yeah, getting to work on like Arkham City and all these different characters. Has there been like a weird character you didn't expect to love writing for so much? Even someone like Costa Joy, or has there one character like even who knows Ratcatcher that you were like, okay, actually I really like this character, and that maybe originally you didn't expect to be so much fun? Besides, obviously, Conan the Barbarian. Not gonna say Conan King. You didn't even write him. I always pull out that segue. Like, I try to throw them off, and it never works because I can never use it in the right context. But yeah, was there any other character that you just like had this weird love and when it came to writing for?
Dr. Phosphorus, I think.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he's a 7-foot flaming skeleton.
Yeah, what's not to love? Right up your alley.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but just actually writing him as a person, because the fact that he was like a nuclear scientist who turned into, hence he's Dr. Phosphorus, he's not Mr. Phosphorus. So he's a nuclear physicist who got turned into a 7-foot flaming skeleton, and that's quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds a bit cliche, but I'm only messing around. That story's literally never been done anywhere else before in the history of time. And now, yeah, that's a brilliant concept. I didn't expect him. Yeah, but like getting to work on these Batman villains, now, because I imagine, of course, you've written all the issues. Looking back, if you could include an extra villain, is there anyone, or just one villain from the Batman lore that didn't fit in that you would really like to work for on at some point, or just a favorite Batman villain?
Well, I feel like I've been quite led towards Condiment King at this point.
Really? That's such a coincidence. What? Condiment King? I am so shocked. Why
you would have run him up.
Why would you bring him up out of context? Listen, I appreciate the love, but you got to stop bringing this guy up out of context. It's so weird. Like the first thing, for like obviously before we clicked recording, you just came and I said, "Do you see Condiment King?"
This is all going to be about Condiment King.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you. We all cut me off a slice of Condiment King. We're relishing in every word of this. We have to stop currying on with this joke.
Very nice, very nice.
Catch up, everyone. Imagine like I'm coming up with these on the wings. Before every interview, I write out 10 condiment jokes that I can use. Just place little, just
good writing exercise.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm not sure how far it'll get me, but if at some point anyone here watching these Condiment King jokes, just give me a ring, give me a cheeky old ring, and help you out. No, but yeah, absolutely. So Arkham City Order of the World, people can pick that up from their local comic book stores.
Yep, issue 1 should be out already. Yeah, I think I got delayed somewhat on the EU UK side, but definitely from tomorrow it should be everywhere.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, and that sounds amazing. But so, what can you tell us about the further issues? This is stopping at issue 6, right, or is it ongoing?
Yeah. Six issue miniseries.
So I imagine you have them all written, or are you playing the by ear? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's all written.
And so, can we expect, without saying who, will we see some, big moments going on or new revelations? Or I assume once Condiment King comes, that'll just change up the whole book. But are the future issues going to be just as great as the first one?
I hope so.
You would probably say that.
That's definitely what we aim for. No, but I actually just saw some pages from some colored pages from issue 3, and that's the Solomon Grundy issue, and
Brilliant.
Dave Stewart and Danny together as an artistic team is just blowing my mind.
Sounds fantastic, and like I said, I assume, Solomon Grundy wants a burger, but just no one will help him because it's lacking something. The burger, it just doesn't work. It's lacking, a certain relish, maybe. Nah, I couldn't possibly lay it on this tick. Yeah, no, absolutely. I like to think of Conman King as a metaphor for human greed when you look at him really as a character.
There's definitely a take there.
I think, when we just kind of associate that there, and I'm going to mess around. But yeah, so another book viewers want to touch on, Homesick Pilots. Maybe you've heard of it. It's probably one of the biggest comics of the year. The hype around it has just been unreal. But issue 9 came out recently as of time of recording.
Yeah, issue 10 is out on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so, let's just get into the origins of this year before we carry on to anything else. How did this book come about? Because I believe you've been working on this for like the last year, but I mean, I assume you went to Image, and pitched this with Casper, or?
Yeah, so Casper and I did a book called Limbo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was going. So that it was actually my first graphic novel was a book with Casper called Limbo, which we pitched to Image and got picked up, and then sort of panicked because we had no idea how to make comics, or no, we knew how to make a comic, but we hadn't worked in the industry before. We didn't sort of know people. We didn't have that sort of connections and things, all those sort of things, and we made this, but it meant that we just made this book and made it however we wanted to make it, and made all the mistakes you could make, and had a blast doing it, and it led to really great things for both of us. Casper went to Marvel and did a load of Star Wars books. I went to DC and did Lucifer, and Coffin Bound came out in that time as well. And then so a few years later, we'd both actually cut our teeth, and we made a bunch of comics, and we came back together, and we were like, okay, well, maybe let's do another book like Limbo, or maybe let's do another book that's set in the world of Limbo, which was our original thought. And we started working on this idea with these sort of punk kids. I knew I wanted to do something about like the punk scene, because that was a big part of my life. That still is a big part of my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that led us to come up with this new case for the detective in Limbo, and it involved these punk kids, and Casper drew them. And then we decided we liked these kids more than we liked the idea of doing the Limbo book. And that was the sort of like very genesis moment of Homesick Pilots. We knew we wanted to make something horror. We knew we wanted to make something strange. And somehow from there, we got to a haunted house that walks up the Mac.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone watching that doesn't know about Homesick Pilot, what can you tell us about the book? Oh, I can't believe I said Homesick. Oh my God, I end the interview. Oh my God, yeah, no, yes, no. But yeah, so what can you tell us about that book for anyone watching who isn't aware of it? What's the general, basis?
Yeah, so the premise of Homesick Pilots is a punk
not
band.
Home Ec Pilots, everyone.
Not Home Ec Pilots.
That's my own creator-owned series. Funny enough, you should bring it up. All right, shut up for a second, Dan. Let me talk about the Kickstarter that's coming out. And I'm only messing around. But yeah, so what can you tell us about it?
It's about a punk band who break into a haunted house, looking for somewhere to throw a gig. And the house goes essentially nuts, and essentially kidnaps their lead singer, who is then sent out to find the house's missing ghosts. And it turns into this sort of mix between a classic haunted house story and Power Rangers was the pitch we gave.
Which is common in most of your work, just Power Rangers for no reason, just tie it in.
Yeah, and the Condiment Rangers.
Condiment Rangers. Oh my God, someone pen it. Let me trademark. Let me get the paperwork going. We got to get this off to the printers. Can't be giving away gold like that on the channel. All right, everyone, that's my new series. I have so many brilliant condiment titles that other guests have brought up, mainly because I just bring them up so much. It's unfathomable. Anyway,
the annoying thing is the Condiment Rangers would work.
Oh my God, when you put it like that, it's like, what does it mean? You're so enticed, yet just it's so beautiful as a title. Oh my God, this is your best work, I have to say. as much as great as your other stuff is. Yeah, but if you've yet to pick up Homesick Pilots, you can pick up Volume 1, or if you prefer to pick up Issue 1, but you're maybe a bit skeptical. Conveniently for you, I made a review of it. which you guys can check out from a couple of months ago, which was an absolute brilliant book. And of course, I basically just talked about what an amazing writer Alex Packnadell was. And I also talked about Dan just a little bit at the end. No, it's a brilliant book. Definitely make sure to go pick it up. But people can pick up volume 1, correct?
Yeah, Volume 1's out. Volume 2 will be out in. So wait, do some maths. Issue 10's out on Wednesday, which means Volume 2 will be out next month.
Yeah. So where do you find the time to sleep? You just hang upside down in your cave occasionally at night, and that's basically sleep for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's Josh Williamson like now.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing you have to do when you work on Batman. DC supplied the cave because they're very generous like that. Like, and you kind of have to, get that upper body strength going, which is why I'd fall immediately. But
yeah, method writing is
method writing. Go full method with it. Like, I assume you went to Arkham Asylum for this book just to really prepare yourself. Like, go really deep in it.
Well, yeah, I got Bedlam down the road where I'm going.
Yeah, and then I assume you took out people's eyeballs as well, just because, dedication to the craft, of course. No,
my lawyer says I'm not allowed to say.
Mr. Waters can neither confirm nor deny any theories regarding eyeballs at this time. Thank you all for asking. That ends our press conference. No, but yeah, absolutely. So getting to work in your own book, like something like Homesick Pilots, I imagine like there's so much more freedom than working on these DC creating, because you can kill anyone you want to or do whatever you want. So I imagine there's so much more freedom working on Homesick Pilots.
Yeah, I mean they're very different beasts working on creator owned and working on stuff set inside in an existing universe. And there's things I really enjoy about both. Creator owned stuff, obviously, yes, you have total freedom. You can do whatever you want. You can make all the mistakes you want. You can make all the money. Whereas
that's all it comes down to. That bag.
That's what all of us got into comics for.
Not for love of the craft, for that
fortunes available in comics.
Yeah, I mean, it was either that or drug dealing, so you made a good choice. I mean, they're the two. That's where I'm going anyway, especially coming from Ireland. I figure comic doesn't work out, drug dealing it is. It's so much easier.
Bigger audience.
You just you just have to be fast. No, we don't promote drug dealing. All right, but yeah, no. So yeah, Homesick Pilots. Do you consider Homesick Pilots a horror book or?
To an extent, I'm not sure. I think we're more using horror tropes than we are writing a horror story. But I sometimes gauge this stuff, I think, differently to other people, because I think partly there's something different when it's your book and you create it and it comes out of your head. There's less to sort of like recoil from, and I'm also probably just jaded from decades of horror film abuse.
You do have that rugged look in your eyes, like you've seen everything.
Seen every Friday the 13th film.
Well, how do you still sleep? How do you still find that?
And that's not something I would wish on anyone. Not because they're terrifying, just because some of them are very bad.
No, Ghost of Space is the most historically accurate one. Don't you disrespect Jason Goes to Space, okay?
Jason X is a fantastic film, and I would offend it with my life.
Let's just dedicate the rest of the interview to that. Yeah, but so you consider more like horror tropes and like taking little bits and pieces from certain horror dramas?
Yeah, it's more that we're sort of using the language of horror than we're telling an out and out horror story. There's no particular the main premise of the book is not trying to sort of like creep you out or gross you out or unnerve you, which is what I think the best horror stories do in comics. It's more of an action book from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And so it's a bit more personal working on these characters, because I think obviously you definitely have a bigger connection to characters like Amy and like your own people. Sorry, because they're yours, I guess they're kind of your children in a weird twisted, am I the god of my own universe type of way, as opposed to working on like some of these other characters. So do you feel like, you kind of relate, or you just feel for these characters more, or is it throughout all your work, you just feel for the characters equally?
Yeah, you kind of have to be honest. You have to find the humanity. And I it's funny, I was writing about this earlier. I was doing an AMA on Reddit.
Yes.
But I guess it's more of a thing of it's more of a question of coming at it from a different direction. Whereas when you're creating something from the ground up, you have the sort of you're building everything around the central idea and a central character, generally speaking. Like you have something you want to explore. There's a story, and a story is a character doing something. That's really what a story is. Whether that, it can be the biggest story in the world, but the interesting thing is how people react. And so when you're creating something from the ground up, you can build the whole world around this central idea and this central character and this thing, which is the core thing which you have found and you've created and you think is interesting. Whereas a lot of the time with pre-existing stuff, it's kind of you're coming from the opposite direction to try and get to the same place, in that you are looking at a character that already exists, or a place, or like Arkham Asylum or something like that, something which already exists, and you're going like, okay, so where is what is the thing which I think is sort of untapped about this and is really sort of interesting and hasn't been sort of looked at from a certain perspective. So and usually that all comes down to character as well. So it's you're trying to get to the same place. You have to care a lot about the characters, because otherwise, why would anyone else?
Yeah, definitely. And so I love one of your original characters, Relish Ravager. That was a very good character, originally created by you. That's my off-brand Condiment King character. Relish Ravager. You
genuinely made me panic for a second. I was like, I don't remember creating this character. Have I reached this stage in my career where I forget?
No, I'm so sorry for even making.
I forget my own work.
It's a Grant Morrison character. You were sitting there thinking, Relish Ravager. Is that one of mine?
Almost definitely a Grant Morrison character.
Yeah, no, but it turns out he's actually the Reddish Ravager, because as you see, it's a metaphor for the world when you think about it, really. No, you haven't thought about it. I love Grant Morrison. But yeah, no, sorry for even making you panic for a quick second there. But yeah, Homesick Pilots is an absolute fantastic book. And I think Scott Snyder, one of my favorite writers, put this perfectly in panel. He said, the thing about working on Batman is that it's your job to continue to make people care about Batman, but working on your own characters, it's your job to make people care about your characters. Yeah. So do you consider that's kind of the same for you? And it's your job to make people care about these characters, and if you want, hate these characters or anything like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a really good quote.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just perfect there. Yeah, but Homesick Pilots, everyone you can pick up volume 1 and issue, sorry, did we say it was A that just came out recently?
10's coming out on Wednesday, so 9 is the most recent one in your shop at the moment.
Yeah, in time for spooky season. So do you have a kind of an ending in mind for Homesick Pilots, or are you happy to continue it for a little bit of a while?
Yeah, I mean, volume 3, so we're taking a little bit of a break, just to let Casper breathe and sleep and play Metroid Dread,
hang upside down in his cave, which apparently labor
playing,
laws exist.
Playing Metroid Dread. So we're taking a little bit of a break after this issue, which is the end of the second arc, and then we're back in January for our third arc, and that will take us to the end of what we originally had planned. I'm not sure if what we'll do after that. We definitely have more ideas and more stuff we'd like to sort of look at, but the third volume will definitely take us to at least the end of the story we have planned. So it's not just gonna drop off and not end.
You can just spoil it for the end, just so I can get that bleeding cool article. I got one bleeding cool article, and I'm so desperate for more. So just spoil the whole thing. Just spoil everything.
What was your article?
All right, listen. I interviewed Kieran Gillen. The amazing Kieran Gillen. And
I know him well.
There was this a weird X-Men thing where they were having all the creators together, and at one point, the guy who runs it, Rich Johnson, he was comparing the backgrounds, because one of them was kind of itched out, and the background was Kieran Gillen's, and it was from my interview. So my one little claim to fame was that I'm mine now. The interviews, the whole article is about Kieran Gillen, but he says from Daniel Fee 33 YouTube channel. So not to brag, but yeah, so just spoil the whole book. I figure, just get that sweet. I don't make money off it, but it does feed my ego and it gives me attention, which is kind of what I feed on. So yeah, I mean, Homesick Pilots, everyone dies at the end.
I mean, if you've read most of my work, that wouldn't be much of a spoiler.
That's how all your books end. It's just it's so
it is the easiest way to end the book.
You're like, no, don't ask any more questions. Everyone blew up.
Even a sort of like romance story, it's like, yeah, they got together and then a piano fell on them, and it's over, it's done.
God,
It's
you know how to tug at them heartstrings. You're just so good at this, and I can't wait till the end of most of your books where just everyone croaks for no specific
yeah.
reason. Diabetes will catch up to you. You know, it's like the moral of the lesson is go to your doctor, get checked out. You know, like come on,
Yeah.
yeah, have to be safe. But yeah, so another one of your works I want to touch on just before you wrap up. This comic I recently picked up. I saw it and I was like, yes, my very good friend Dan Waters is doing it. I'm going to interview him soon. I held it up in the middle of a comic book store. I'm interviewing this person. No one cared, but still, you know.
Especially not the stuff at Big Bang.
They were like, "No, shut up. We thought we banned you, Daniel. Why are you back?" I'm like, "No, no, no. You didn't ban me." But yeah,
We banned you, and we banned you, and we banned him.
yeah. Dan Waters. You're like, "No, I just want to." And then I thought I saw you at the window saying, "I just want to sign the copies. Let me in. I didn't get my
That
comps."
their whole no Daniels policy is just unfair.
It's shocking, you know. We have to revolt. By the way, we have the best name in the world. That's just a matter
Uh-huh.
of fact. And you see, look, great minds think alike. I think we're connected in some way through Condiment King, like maybe just spiritually. You know, you can use that for your next create your own book about Condiment King. You know, I'm very generous like that. But yeah, so Coffin Bound, which was a fantastic series that I immediately picked up, and I loved it so much. It's brilliant. Yeah, but so how did this come about? Because I know you also worked with Danny on this. You also got to do Batman. No, sorry, Arkham City. I keep saying Batman Arkham City because I'm so used to
Yeah.
games. You also got to work on Arkham City. So was this the first book you guys did together?
Oh yeah. So Danny and I have known each other for a while. We'd like see each other at cons like every so often. She lives in Athens.
Wow.
But she'd be over in the UK, or we'd both be somewhere in Europe, and every time I saw her, she had she does a book called Tales from the Strips, which was her like own, just create her own Drisso printed thing. And every year I'd see her, she'd have a new volume, and the art was just gorgeous, and every volume like was just like a leap from the one before as well. And it was just she was just such a great artist. And it was actually Casper Wingard who eventually just went, "Hey, you guys should do something." Probably the side with more enthusiasm than that. But no,
Dan,
but
I'm so
like,
sick of working for you. Please just work with someone else. Just this once, please.
I just want to draw Star Wars. So Danny and I, yeah, we started talking. We also she'd read Limbo. I'd read Tales from the Strips. We knew we had a sort of similar idea about how comics worked, and we started talking. We came up with this idea, which turned into Coffin Bound. And it all kind of went from there. Like we did 2 volumes of Coffin Bound, and then when Arkham City became a thing, and we knew we were going to be reinventing some of these characters and redesigning them, giving them new costumes and things. I just the sort of stuff we'd created in Coffin Bound just felt like the right direction for that. And you know, I'll always jump at any chance to work with Danny as well. So it was really cool to bring, because Aditya Bidikar as well, who lettered Coffin Bound, is the letter on Arkham City as well. So it was like a nice reunion.
Yeah.
To work together again and bring this team that I created stuff with, you know, from the ground up, and bring that into Gotham and see how that sort of like worked together, and find that it just really did. I feel like Gotham and Batman has so much sort of history, and there's been so many different takes that it's sort of robust enough that you can just bring a new aesthetic and a new sort of style in, and it just doesn't blink. It still feels like Gotham City, even though it's us bringing a sort of Coffin Bound sensibility to it.
Yeah, definitely. And so this was something that I couldn't believe, but you actually have a cover quote from Neil Gaiman. So what blackmail did you have on him to get that quote? Did you just come to his house and say, "I'll leave you alone if you give me a quote. You don't even have to read the book." Just
I mean, not too far. No, I mean, Neil, you know, I wrote Lucifer, and before we did Lucifer, before we did the Sandman universe, we all flew to New Orleans and had a summit. We had the Sandman summit in New Orleans, and it was snowing in New Orleans, which isn't a thing. And then Neil Gaiman just sort of sweeps in like this giant crow man.
Is that
like he does,
just people in general?
storytelling crow, with the poet's voice. And so yeah, so he would, he couldn't be a nicer guy. He's exactly the guy that you think he is, which is always nice to learn about someone. And so yeah, from there, I was able to sort of send him issue 1 of Coffin Bound and hopefully not gross him up.
Yeah, exactly. And then he just blocked you, but you tracked him down anyway, and then you got that sweet cover call. Yeah, absolutely. So getting to work on Coffin Bound, this is volume 1, so people can pick this up from their local comic book store.
Yeah, volume 2 is out as well.
Oh, volume 2's out. Oh, brilliant! Yes. I have to pick that up as well. Yeah, volume 1, volume 2, and so is that a wrap on it now, or are we going to be more volumes? Or
yeah, for now, I mean, it's one of those things like Coffin Bound's. Coffin Bound's a book about a woman who decides to essentially pursue nothingness. Who finds out she has an unstoppable hitman on her trail. And rather than try to survive, she decides that if the world's not going to have her in it, it's not going to have anything of her. So she tries to erase all evidence of herself from the world. And that is obviously a premise with an endpoint.
No, couldn't possibly.
Yeah, if we just kept that going and going, it would have felt very. I think it would have been for the sake of selling more books and not for the sake of the story.
Yeah.
So we did volume 1, we did volume 2, which slightly pivots and there's a slightly different premise because the first volume's premise is so sort of finite. And so the second book is another book about death, about how we sort of approach it and how we chase it in sort of strange ways. And by the time we were sort of creating volume 2, the COVID hit, and there was suddenly enough sort of death around, as far as I was concerned, and
that's lovely.
It sort of made me or made us sort of rethink and sort of reapproach just what we wanted to do next. So Coffin Bound is definitely done for now. I would say if there's something about, if there's an idea which just fits that universe, so in a way which doesn't fit anywhere else, then I think we definitely come back and do another Coffin Bound book. But it's both volumes are complete stories as far as I'm concerned. So I don't feel a need to be like, oh, it's like an unfinished thing and we need to rush back and it, or we sort of failed it in some way by sort of stopping. It's the 2 books we have are both complete things.
Yeah, definitely. And so just right here, that's a really nice cover. And if you're paying close attention to Dan's background, we can actually see, I believe is that the original? Just up there?
Yeah, Danny sent me that for my birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I got a page from towards the end up there as well.
Oh, brilliant pages up there. Damn, that's nice. So let me just search on like the sketches up there because I'm infatuated by them. That's also a Swamp Thing sketch.
There's a Seba Fumara Swamp Thing. And a Mike Thealinus.
Yeah, wow. I assume you just said, I'll pay you back. I'll get you later. And you just took them out and you just ran away.
Actually, you know what's terrible? All of these were gifts.
That it's a good way to be,
Yeah.
Just taking his gifts, and we can just blame Alex Packnadell. Worst thing. What's the worst?
Yeah, he said he covered me.
Yeah, he's generous like that. But yeah, absolutely. So coming off Coffin Bound, the last book I want to touch on, and it's a book you have coming up soon enough, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Which I know was like announced recently enough, but yeah. So how did this come out? Sorry, and who's that being published by?
That's Titan.
That's Titan. Yeah. I was thinking, who owns the properties for that? Yeah, but how did Cowboy Bebop come about?
Via Netflix.
Yeah. No, they just stole it from Netflix. It's royalty free. Cowboy Bebop with a silent X.
Just decided to make it. Who needs permission? Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was just I worked with Titan earlier in my career and did sort of some video game stuff for them, and then I was off doing DC stuff, doing image stuff, and then they came to me and said, do you know Cowboy Bebop? And I was like, I very much know Cowboy Bebop. And like, would you be interested in writing Cowboy Bebop? And I was like, that's the most terrifying thing.
Yeah,
that's scarier than Sandman, frankly.
Really.
Cowboy Bebop is so tight and so well written. I think it is one of the best written things. Just sort of full stop. The original show. I mean the anime. So it was that. Yeah, it was a slightly daunting one. But you know, just such a cool opportunity to just get to go and write a Cowboy Bebop story.
Great to be, yeah, absolutely. And so these are all these are original Cowboy Bebop stories, like you're not adapting anything, or they're all original?
No, yeah, it's a 4-issue series. It's one story, running through 4 issues, and it's we basically like approaching this like this is like an episode of the new show. The way I look at it is like there's the anime, there's the new live action Netflix show, and we are adapting the new show, not the anime, but we're doing it in a drawn format, not a live action format. So I think there's a pretty good opportunity there to sort of like bridge the gap a little bit, and sort of, you know, pull some sort of parallels between the two versions that sort of already exist. So we're essentially treating it as like it's a Bebop case. It's like a lost episode or whatever, of either the live action or the anime.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, do you feel a bit of pressure accosted there? Because, like you said, you're like, you kind of were like, oh, it's pretty scary to work in this. So, do you feel as if you have to get it right, or you just kind of, you know, you're kind of okay with it, or did you feel any pressure at all while working it?
I mean, there's definitely, yeah. I mean, I you want to do something that is of a quality.
Yeah.
When you're working in something where all of the output thus far is of such high quality, even just from a base competitive level. Not that we're competing with Cowboy Bebop, because that would be
Dan must come first.
Quite a feat.
Survival of the fittest, number one.
I mean, managing it would be quite a feat, but there is a certain amount of weight to that. It definitely made me sort of consider the project in the first place, and knowing how you know, sort of how passionately people feel about it. But to be honest, like, people feel very passionately about Batman, people feel very passionately about Superman. I've written all of these things, and and once you actually sit down and start writing and start working out a story, that stuff will just has to like go in a little box somewhere, and you can't worry about it, because otherwise you just never get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that comes out December, correct?
December, yeah.
And so this isn't your first work for Titans publishing it, correct?
Yeah.
So you did some video game stuff. Is that Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein?
Yeah. And some Dark Souls stories as well.
I'm just saying all that so I can put Dan Waters on Homesick and all these different things in the title. There's technically just in case I need more sites. Not many else around. Yeah, so it's been such a pleasure having you on. Before I just have 3 more questions before we finish up. Thank you so much. So sorry for taking up so much of your time. But so my last couple of questions is: have you noticed improvement as a writer? Like, do you look back at some of your earlier work and say, "Oh, I could have done that," or "Oh, not enough Condiment King," or "Oh, I should have done this," or anything like that?
All 3 of those things.
Yeah.
Yes, I think is the short answer. It's a strange one, because stories are strange things that every time you sit down, you're kind of starting from scratch, because what worked last time probably won't work this time.
Yeah.
Which is definitely something you learn as well. I mean, on one hand, it is a craft, and there is like so much to learn and develop and things, and you can get better at it just by doing it. And doing it, and also striving every time to make it as good as it possibly can be before it goes out the door. But I also do think I did a lot of my learning in public, which is a strange thing that sort of happens sometimes with comics, in that I started professionally writing comics when I was 23 or something around that, 23, 24 maybe. I was doing my master's at university when Limbo came out.
Wow.
So yeah, so I definitely feel like every but as long as I feel like the arc of good, you know, of quality is going upwards. Sometimes you should still take risks and do strange things, and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't.
Actually, well, it seems as if all your work has paid off, so you don't have to worry about that. But my second last question is, who's your dream comic book character? Besides, of course, the one and only Condiment King. You didn't think I would say it. So out of character for me, but no, but who's that one character you've yet to grace with your amazing writing that you'd like to work on?
I mean, I think I've peaked with Ten-Eyed Man, frankly.
Yeah, you're never gonna see it. I only know you as Ten-Eyed Man writer. That's only kind of why I wanted to do this.
You know what? If that goes on my gravestone,
I've forgotten your name already. It's Dirk. It's something. When you brought up Ten-Eyed Man, I tend to
Ten-Eyed guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like the problem with that question as well is.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, you can't because you're still working there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If you say something, then it's like, you could do that. Yeah, but all right. Yeah, you've put it perfectly there. We all know it's Condiment King anyway. But I can see it deep in your eyes. But yeah.
But there's already 3 or 4 writers vying for Condiment King at any given moment.
I imagine DC just has a little fight club underneath, like where you all just kind of deck each other and stuff. And then Alex is behind it all because he's literally a lethal mastermind. But yeah, so my last and final question before we finish up: if anyone was looking to get into comic books, what advice would you have for them?
Oh boy. Well, it depends what you're looking to do. First off, if you're looking to do what I do, then good luck.
It's perfect that we can't.
There is this sort of strange thing where someone finds a route in and then it seems to sort of like close up behind you. It's always such a strange thing of no one quite has the same story of how they broke into things. But the main thing is and it's the boring answer, but unfortunately it's the truth. The only thing you can really control and really have total control over is the quality of your work.
Yeah.
You can't control who's in charge of what company and whether they like you, and you can't control, you can go to places and you can meet people, but definitely never prioritize that over the work, because it's useless if you haven't got the work to show and your work doesn't stand out, then neither will you. So
definitely
just making things and trying to make them as good as possible, and making the next thing, and reading and writing and staying as interested as possible in the world at large. Those are the main things that you can and should do, because writing is also, it's a very rewarding thing. I mean, it's particularly rewarding when you get paid for it, I will admit. But
he has a mansion, everyone. He turned around his camera and all the butlers are lined up waiting for him to finish up.
All you see is books. It's unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too many books for an apartment. But it's writing should be it's a vocation, and it's something that's hard, and it's a path full of sort of self-doubt and struggle, and because every day you've got that voice in the back of your head going like, whatever you're doing is rubbish, and you have to sort of battle that. And I don't think that's different for any writer, or any writer who's really trying to do something that's interesting and connects with other people.
Definitely, you just put it perfectly there, and then maybe, just maybe, you'll get to work on Ten-Eyed Man. So
or Condiment King.
Or Condiment King, yeah. I mean, come on, let's stay realistic, right, Dan? You can't be shooting out of the park here, no one else around. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure. Before we finish up, I just want one more thing. Did you do the Year of the Villain, Aquaman Orm story?
I did, and people keep bringing this up to me today.
That was you. Oh, I was literally just thinking this whole time. I was thinking, oh, was that him? And I only worked up the courage to ask you. I have that signed comic I got from Forbidden.
Oh, really? Oh,
fantastic. And it's up there somewhere. Oh, yeah, but that was you.
Yeah, it's funny. People kept bringing up. I did that AMA earlier, and people kept bringing up Orm.
Your Year of the Villain, Orm story, really?
Yeah, my one. Well, I actually just did a second Orm story, because I did a.
No way.
I did a story for the Aquaman 80th anniversary special, which was really nice as well, because Miguel, who drew the Year of the Villain story, drew this as well. So we got to reunite and do another Orm story. Yeah, well, yeah, the AMA people kept bringing up the Aquaman one shot, the Ocean Master one shot I did.
It was your best work.
Apparently so.
Because no, that's amazing. But I was literally just thinking it this whole time, and I have that signed comic somewhere up there. So yeah, I assume of course, the amount of comics I've bought from you, I've probably paid for your mansion that you're in there right now.
And I appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure.
And so does Pancakes.
But yeah, and Pancakes as well. Yeah, Pancakes, like I said, she's just living in pure luxury every day, constantly amazing stuff. I imagine just carry around a pillow. That's basically your job. And then maybe for lucky, you'll get half a script done per day.
It's so not far from the truth. It is upsetting how much truth is in your words.
Yeah, absolutely. The luxurious life of a comic book writer.
Everyone. The luxurious life of a comic book writer's cat.
Yeah. Wow. Is that? I assume that just be the name of like Pancake's autobiography when there is inevitably one. But absolutely, yeah. That's brilliant. But before we finish up, are you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. Dan PG Waters on both, which are my initials. And yeah, mostly realistically, I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. And so, any books you'd like to promote? Arkham City, Order of the World.
Arkham City Order of the World one is out. Urban Legends, Batman Urban Legends, with the first part of our Azrael story. Is out tomorrow. I'm Sick Pilots 10 out on Wednesday. I wrote the Justice League Dark Annual, which is out next month.
Brilliant.
I'm looking forward to that coming out too. I co-plotted that with Romby and scripted it. And it's
Legend himself.
Chris Mitten, who's fantastic, and drew my Psycho Pirate story.
Brilliant artist, yeah, absolutely. And so Cowboy Bebop also in December.
Cowboy Bebop in December, with Lamar Matheson, who's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, brilliant. You can also pick up Coffin Bound Volume 1, Homesick Pilots Volume 1, and a few other of Dan's books. And his most famous book, Year of the Villain Orm. That's all you really need to know.
Apparently so.
And then DM him a million Twitter questions asking about, what did this panel mean? I'm so surprised you got so much questions. We're going to have to check.
I'm quite happy talking about Ocean Master 2. He's a really fun character.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just put perfectly there. And of course, I have a signed copy graced with your pen himself. Absolutely. I assume that'll be worth a couple $1 million. Unfortunately, you didn't get Pancakes. You didn't get Pancakes to sign it. So what's the real point? I'm just going to throw it out the window later on. But yeah, absolutely.
Come to Food and Planet.
Absolutely, Dan. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I'll talk to you a little bit off air. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me over on Twitter if you'd like @SamboGizmo1 and talk to me about Condiment King. As always, if possible, please make sure to donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. Link for that in the description. That's the NDCS at UK. You check them out over Twitter. I'll link down below. But if you do have the means, please make sure to donate. If not, that's completely fine. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Pick up Dan's work and long live Condiment King. I'll see you all later. Stay safe. Bye.